Hey guys, and welcome to our episode today on Pathways. And today I have a guest whose name is Dan West. And Dan is a person that I met on X, as many of the other people that I've interviewed. And Dan, he helps creative founders to escape slavery in a business they hate by aligning them with their purpose so they can get paid for being themselves. That's actually what you have in your bio on Twitter, right? Or X, right? So
Mm.
tell us, or tell my listeners as well, Dan, who are you? What do you do?
So I think my bio is definitely putting it in a nutshell. But I guess to explain would be the best way to summarize would be to explain with a quick story. So I myself, I've been an entrepreneur for about 5 years now. I've done all kinds of different ventures in different niches, and I started mowing lawns. That was my first real entrepreneurial venture. Grew that business, made it automated. Got involved with NFTs and launching communities. So the online world has definitely been baked into my entrepreneurial experience, and that's kind of led me to writing online, writing blogs. Last year, I had a bit of a wake up where I was like, okay, I consume a lot of content. Now my head's exploding. I want to start putting this out there and see if these ideas help other people. Where that led me to now is helping people in a similar position to me, people that want to express themselves online, have ideas that can help people, but don't really know how. And specifically, the reason why I help those types of individuals is because that was myself. I was a founder in a business that I built. I kind of built myself a bit of a prison. I wasn't interested in what I was doing, and it felt like it really lacked meaning. I was just doing it for money. And once I started leaning into expressing myself online and writing more, developing my ideas, and actually, in the end, helping people with my ideas, launching communities, teaching people how to write, express themselves, build their brand. It led me to this point now where my clients are people that want to escape the business they built for themselves purely to serve them in a financial sense and want to move into a line of work, or at least a business that they really they monetize their ideas, their knowledge, their experiences to get paid to literally be themselves by expressing themselves, helping people with their ideas, helping people with their story, and ultimately live a life of it's creative freedom. That's really the objective for these people. They want to do something truly creative that's aligned with the things they really care about and live in that, I guess, never-ending flow state, where they essentially get paid for being themselves. So it's really a solution that I've overcome myself and am now, I guess, providing to the market, providing to my audience. And it gives me so much fulfillment that it's easy to sell and it's easy to go to the market and say, hey, like, this is a great solution because I know how much it's done for my life and the way that it's changing the lives of my clients. So yeah, that's who I am. This bit of background. That's a bit more of an expansion on my bio, and yeah, that's really what my mission is.
What was the wake-up call that you had last year that like thrusted you in this direction in your life? Was it like sense of meaninglessness, or what was it that like was it a specific event or perhaps a series of events that led you to say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore?
So I hadn't eaten for 3 days. I'd been fasting, and I had over New Year's last year. I maybe drank a little bit too much, maybe got a little bit too excited with the holidays. So I wanted to like cleanse myself a little bit. I do these kinds of things every now and then, and I had such clarity and such my mood was completely balanced. I had complete clarity. I had no anxiety. I had no like things that we're unaware of on a daily basis. It just wasn't affecting me. So I was able to think clearly. And I'd moved to Australia because I think I
Mm.
was looking, to be honest, Gabriel, I think I was looking for something. I'd moved from home. I was looking for something. I went all the way to Australia because I'm from the UK, I guess, to find something. And in the end, not eating for 3 days, sitting underneath a tree like Buddha was. Funny enough, I'm not trying to compare myself to Buddha, but it's just funny how that scene, you can imagine it. I kind of had this moment of realization, like the amount of content I consume and the amount of books that I read, I feel like I would just want to express it because these things have really helped me. And I just got on my phone and I just started writing. It was on Instagram at the time. story after story. So now Instagram is, you go like, if you click the story, you go on to the next one, black background, and I just filled the whole my ideas and things that had helped me and actionable advice, I guess. And I realized, I was like, holy cow, like I really need to, I guess, create a better vehicle to get these ideas out there. And that's when I started. I built a website within like 3 days. I learned how to build a website, started writing blogs and said, hey, I've got a community on Instagram, but they're all my friends. I was like, I wonder where the writers are. And that led me back to Twitter, X now. I hadn't been there for a year or two, but I knew the power of it because I launched an NFT community exclusively on Twitter a few years ago. And I knew that, okay, it's a writing platform. There's people there that bought from me before. Maybe it's a great place to go and spread these ideas. And then I found all sorts of creators, all sorts of brands like, Danko, JK Molina, like all the usual suspects, and was like, okay, this is where I'm going to put myself. I'm just going to give this 1 year, see what happens. And here we are. We're just over a year later, and I've achieved a lot more than I thought I would. And I'm just grateful that I made the choice and grateful for everyone that's helped me.
So when you came to this realization and you had this moment of, you had been fasting and you gained clarity and then you started expressing yourself, what was it? Like, what is it that you do for other founders, I guess, or creators or people that you work with? Is it that you help them to create clarity for themselves, or what do you think, like, what is your purpose in a sense, right? Because you found your purpose in doing what you want. So how do you help others find their own purpose?
So I think the number one thing is helping them understand themselves. So we were speaking just before this about podcasts you listen to, where they were talking about like lack of meaning, lack of purpose being a serious problem in the world. And I think that really stems from a few things, but the first place I go to with my clients is helping them understand themselves. So I'm not sure who said it. It was one of the great for Plato. They said, know thyself. And it's we ignore it, but now, and I was watching The Matrix the other day, and the Oracle above her door, when she's talking to Neo, points his attention to it and says, see the sign up there? It says, know thyself. And when people understand themselves, they actually realize, what am I good at? What was I put here to do? I believe that everyone's born with a hard wiring and a purpose that they are supposed to fulfill. Not many people find it, and not many people lean into it. So I help them recognize that, so they get clarity on themselves and what they do best, what their strengths are, what their God-given gifts are. Essentially, that's what they are, and help them lean into that so that they can, because everyone has an unfair advantage. Everybody has something that they, when they play that game, nobody can touch them. Like, it's like being, like Michael Jordan with basketball or LeBron James. Like, they were born to do that. And I see that the same way with business. I see that the same way with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. There's usually something that you can do that's not many people can, and that helps you not only stand out, it helps you, it feels like you're swimming downstream. Like, you're not swimming upstream, you're going with the flow. And when people understand that, they start to realize, maybe this is how God made me. This is maybe what the universe wants for me. This is maybe what life wants for me. And now I'm actually able to recognize that. I can lean into it, double down, ignore everything that isn't aligned with my strengths or aligned with my natural abilities. And that's when people really start to make strides and then start to feel more comfortable expressing themselves, sharing their ideas, knowing where to look for ideas because those ideas genuinely interest them. And when they're able to do that, they can then go and create a narrative around themselves and a story around themselves, and a brand and a business around themselves that reflects who they truly are. And that's when you become more attractive to the marketplace, and you start to monetize quite organically. It's not a struggle because people just want to understand themselves as well, and they can sort of pass that knowledge onto them through their own unique expression, their own unique philosophy. And yeah, it's like teachers and philosophers now have an opportunity to actually get paid simply for what's going on in between their ears. And to not help people capitalize on that opportunity is criminal. So yeah, that's really what I help people do. And there's writing, there's writing, there's writing technique, there's copywriting involved, there's storytelling involved, there's marketing, there's sales. I had to go deep on sales recently myself to upskill in that area. And these are all things that can be learned. These are all things that can be taught. And yeah, just helping people piece it all together so that they can monetize their experiences, monetize their knowledge, and yeah, eventually get paid for being themselves, which is I can't believe that that's the reality we live in, but that's where we are.
For a lot of people, this is scary, right? If you have been used to living a life of 9 to 5, I guess, the life of kind of like, you know what's coming. There's the repetition, there's the rat race. Even if you're not competing in the rat race and you're just comfortable where you are, but there's this aching need inside of you. You look away, you stay awake at night, and it's like there has to be more than this. But a lot of people don't take action on that urge that you have within, right? That especially that urge that I myself have seen in myself and also in others, that you find yourself with, like when you go to bed, and you're in bed and shit, I can't believe I'm gonna do this tomorrow again. Or when you go to bed on Sundays and it's scary and you have some anxiety, right? Monday anxiety is a real thing. Monday morning anxiety is a real thing. Oh shit, I have to start another new week at work, where I have to adapt to others. I have to fulfill the expectations of others. I have to live by the rule of others. And there's so much more within me, and I have no clue how to go about this. I have no clue. I don't know about the digital economy. I have no clue about the online world, but it's scary. What do you say to a person like
I
that?
was there myself. um, I was there myself, and I think it's normal because we're not taught how to discover our purpose. We know it's the burden of awareness. A lot of people in business, and this is why business is a really interesting sphere to be in, because a lot of people, when you don't embrace or you don't lean into entrepreneurship, or you're not interested in entrepreneurship, or you're not interested in business, a lot of people throw stones and cast rocks at people that succeed in business and say they must be a bad person, they only care about money, etc. And from my experience, maybe I'm biased because I like my clients, but the people that are doing well in business are usually very well-rounded, developed people that have realized their gifts and want to make the most out of life. It's not all about money. And the people that it is all about money, fair play, like they get really good at systemizing things. But I think the people that really go far and the people that really love life embrace leadership, embrace responsibility, embrace accountability, get as far as they can in business because they want a great life for themselves and others, and they want to be an example. So I think if I'm talking to I guess my audience or the people that I serve, I would say if they're feeling that way, then it's normal, and they should know that they've come so far. Like they're already doing the thing. All they need to do is align the thing with their purpose and the thing that they really want to do in life, and they will absolutely fly because they've got the work ethic. They've proven themselves as competent, and all you have to do is just take the leap and start looking for answers. So I think, if not knock the door and it shall be opened, I think is the best way to summarize it, is just lean into the curiosities. Know that if you are lying awake at night, like you were talking about there, and you're thinking, God, I don't want to go to work tomorrow, change it. Start looking for ways and answers to make sure that you don't wake up on Monday dreading work. You wake up excited. And the only way to do that is to couple your abilities and your competency that you already have with your passions and with your interests. And I think a year of leaning into that, by the end of it, you'll be in a great position. You'll be somewhere. But the first thing is to take the first step, to be brave, and also look at who's already doing it. If one monkey can do something, so can another. So That's why we're in the digital economy. Having people and mentors in the space, whether you decide to invest in them or not, is a great place to look to go, how do I replicate that and implement it into my own life? Because if somebody else is doing it, so can you.
Yeah. There are two things I would like to ask you, but first I'm going to ask you one thing, and then maybe I'll ask the second question later on. But you mentioned something about entrepreneurs and how we view entrepreneurship, and you said something about the well-rounded people who love life. And something that I've been considering in the past. For me, spirituality is not about. Honestly, it's not. I don't subscribe to any dualistic view of what spirituality is. Like there's the realm of the spirits or spirituality ideas, and then there's the physical realm, and those two are completely separate. I think that for me, spirituality it's completely embodied. It's you have to. This body is a vehicle, but it's not only merely a vehicle. It's also how you express yourself. It's also how you experience the world. It's also how you experience yourself. If you believe in a higher purpose, if you believe in God or nature, whatever you want to, whatever you believe in, it is through this body that you actually access all of that. So spirituality for in my world is embodied. It's incarnated, if you may. And so I've been thinking about like entrepreneurship and spirituality, how the two may be correlated to one another. And I think that the healthiest kind of entrepreneurship is when your entrepreneurial journey is part of your spiritual journey. It's about expansion. It's about engaging in life. It's about making this world better. It's an invitation, really. First, you participate in life and you expand, and then you invite others into this game, into this journey, right? And of expansion, of making the best of it. And the first thing you do is doesn't have to necessarily be that you serve a large audience, but first of all, yourself. You heal yourself, because that's what you're doing, right? And by finding your purpose, by understanding your place in this world, by discovering, oh, I'm good at this, or maybe I'm not good at this, but I really love this, so I can become good at this. By following your curiosity, and it's like muscles that you have to train. Obviously, you have to learn along the path. You just said that you have to do a deep dive on sales, something that you didn't know before, but you have to do it as part of your own journey of expansion. So I think that entrepreneurship and spirituality are highly, highly related. They don't have to be. And I think when they aren't correlated to one another, that's when you have purposelessness. That's when you have the business owner who makes maybe a lot of money, but hates what he does or what she does.
Of what you said there, like everything you said, I couldn't stop nodding. So definitely, for me, it all started with a low point. I hit a low point. I hit a crisis of meaning in my own life. I spoke about how I had that moment of clarity under a tree, but it actually started before that. I had money, I had things going for me, but I felt lost. I felt like I wasn't achieving anything, and it was because I was neglecting my health. I was neglecting my spiritual health, and I had nothing to strive for. I had no vision for expansion. I had no vision for growth. I just knew that I was at a low point and I had to make a change. And when I started, my first instinct was health. I need to prioritize my health. I need to prioritize how my body feels. I need to prioritize how my mind is experiencing the world around me. I need to calm it. And so it was all in on how do I make myself healthier? And it was all in on how do I get in touch with, how do I improve the content of my mind? And that was all a spiritual journey, really. So when I started improving in that way, very, very soon after that, I was growing, and it didn't take long before I was like, I want to be free. I want to have my own thing. I want to be in control of my future. And I decided take a risk, to, take some time to build a business, explore that. And it was really, like an exploration of the self, manifesting itself as a business that I now have, manifesting itself as more freedom, manifesting itself as more money, and more money than I was getting paid in like a 9 to 5. So yeah, for me, it really started from I'm at 0 and I don't want to be at 0. I want to go to 100. And how do I do that? The first place I looked was I need to improve my I guess, yeah, my spiritual, my mental, my physical health. And didn't take long for that to translate into entrepreneurship and business. So I completely agree with everything you're saying there. It's like absolute perfect description. I can't say it better than you did. But eventually, if you do start prioritizing yourself and healing yourself, it doesn't take long for you to start thinking like, what else can I do? What other transformations can I make? What other levels of freedom and abundance can I access? And the logical next step is going into exploring entrepreneurship. So it's really a positive byproduct and inevitability of spiritual growth. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, because I think entrepreneurship and spirituality taken together, it's like I said, like before, we hopped on this, started recording. We talked about this. It was Dacre Keltner, the psychologist at Berkeley, who talks about he cited some information or some data, some research on the decline of meaning in Western societies. Like there's a lack of purpose, lack of meaning, and there's also a decline at the same time of participation in religious communities, religious rituals and ceremonies, very harsh, like very starkly everywhere. And there might be some kind of correlation between the two. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, you believe in God. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's simply by being part of a community, by feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And simply by doing that, there's something like going on for you. Like your health will be, because we know that interpersonal relationships are very important for our mental health. And for me, that's why I connect also. One of the reasons why I connect spirituality with entrepreneurship is, you said, you work on yourself, you heal, and then inevitably you want to extend, like beyond yourself. But I think ultimately spirituality is about interconnectedness, and how I view it is that you invite others into your game, or you into your world. You participate in the world of others. Like what we're doing right now, right? We're talking about this and we're sharing our worldviews in one sense, how we view all these questions together. So it's an invitation in one sense, and it's a meeting between you and I. And in that meeting, something happens. And that's part of that's part of my growth as well, and as well as your growth. So that's why I think 100% I agree with you that eventually, whether it's by entrepreneurship or in some other way, it could be also, of course, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur, but you're going to want to serve others. I think then that's also a sign for me. That's a sign that you have a healthy view of yourself. You also have a healthy view of life. You have a healthy view of spirituality, I guess. I would say, yeah.
Important thing I think you said there was eventually, like, we can say entrepreneurship is inevitable, right? But what you said is far more profound, which is you can't become an entrepreneur, you can't dive into the world of business without serving others. There's always an exchange, a service for eventually money, but you get other things in return: fulfillment, enjoyment, reward, all of these other things that you get as with the exchange of giving and receiving. Is once you start giving more and expanding and inviting others in and being also an example for people, inspiring others, they don't necessarily have to be your clients or your customers. They can be just people in your community that go, Gabriel's really, like, what he's doing is amazing and inspiring, and if he can do it, why can't I do it? And all of a sudden you're promoting and increasing the level of I guess awareness of what people can do and the power they have, and you're raising the level of consciousness by example. So that's very, very important. So we can talk about the actual financial monetary fulfillment exchange, but there's also the spillover of actually inspiring others around you to be better and to do and to find something that they really enjoy, which usually aligns with them giving their gifts. And now you're living in a society, or at least a community, where people are giving unconditionally because they know how good it makes them feel. They know the rewards they get, and they know the benefits are just undeniable. So helping people live that way and realize that potential in themselves is one of the biggest gifts you can give once you start expanding, like you said, and once you actually start exploring your gifts and just giving them like just on repeat, just like turning the tap on and not being able to turn it off. And you don't want to turn it off. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, you might even make a friend or two, right? In the journey. Something that I
Absolutely.
found also, like something ideas, beliefs that people have that's very like controversial and people don't want to talk about it is money. It's such a big thing because they think a lot of people think, and I include myself. I have thought about this. Like I have had this thought and limiting belief myself is that when money is involved, it's only a service. When money is involved, there is like you want to get something out of it, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. And a lot of people believe this to be true. A lot of people act as if that is true as well. So I'm wondering, like, how do you view money? What role does it play in your life and your business? Obviously, you need money to survive and so on in this society.
So I recently been reading a book called The Secret of the Millionaire Mind. It was recommended to me by a friend who's incredibly spiritual, and he's somewhat of a mentor to me as well. Like he's an amazing person. I was like, okay, he's a smart guy, switched on. I will definitely take his book recommendation. And it talked about how we are programmed from a very young age to look at money as potentially evil. If you're not brought up in save for the few exceptions of people where they're raised in a home where, you've got successful parents, money, like generational wealth is kind of just baked into the family fabric. If for most people, in reality, like they probably grew up in a middle class or a working class family, and there was phrases that got used like "I'm not made of money" or "I can't afford that" or "money causes more problems" or criticizing people that are successful and have a lot of wealth. And this gets programmed into us so that we think, like maybe I shouldn't be trying to create that level of abundance for myself. Maybe you're not even thinking like that. You're thinking more like money is evil. Money is not accessible. Money is scarce. And that mindset creates a blueprint. This is what the author talks about. I believe it's in Thomas Eckhart, something like that. A blueprint where you can't even imagine yourself making more than say 6 figures a year, or you don't feel worthy of making that money. It's actually a tragedy because I'm stealing this from Dan Kennedy, and this is a slightly controversial view, but it makes complete sense. The worst thing you can do for the poor is to be one of them, because I guess the stagnation of human progress, where if people just realized that money isn't evil, there's plenty of money available. You just need to find out how you can become more valuable and give more value to the world in exchange for that. I think shifting that perspective is important. So I guess to summarize, I see money as simply a resource that is all around us. It's just energy. And if you give energy and invest energy into the marketplace, the world, the universe, and its and value, there will simply just be a straight up metaphysical exchange of money in return for value. So you make as much money, the amount of money you make is proportionate to the amount of value you give and how valuable you are, whether we like it or not. Even if you're not spiritual and you're just providing a really good service, and you're not aligned with your purpose, but you're doing a really good job of creating value, you will make money. So I don't see money as evil. I've been trying to reprogram my mind on money. I just see it as simply, with every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you're providing value, people will just go, okay, well, that's worth whatever. What have I got to give in return? And it's just an exchange of value for resources, energy stored in a different way. It's just going, hey, maybe I change your mind, or maybe I give you a product which you really love and it's amazing for you, find it really valuable. There should be no real resistance to exchanging money for that, because it's just how we do things. So it's just a metaphysical exchange of energy, in my opinion. So I guess the number one objective is to figure out what value you can provide and how valuable can you make yourself.
Yeah, it's quite fun and insightful. I would just perhaps like to say that Keltner, he also, like in the podcast, he also looked at research, or he cited research in this podcast that says that people that do get rich, like if they climb from a lower like class, for example, working class, and they make more money, they tend also to be care less about those who are less fortunate. And an anti thing that he's like a practice that he actually told the listeners that this is something you can do to not get into that get to that point where you actually, okay, you get money, you create value and you make more money and so on. But in order to care for also for those who are less fortunate, one thing you should always carry with you is actually awareness, so that there are others who are less fortunate than you, and not forget, like, okay, that this is a journey that I've been on as well. And the second thing I would like to say is that while I agree with you, like a lot of this book, and also I've read a lot of other books as well, they are valuable, but there's something that I have found, at least in my opinion, that they're missing. And in my opinion, what they're missing is they lack the sociological analysis. What I mean by that is to see how actually there are systems in society. There are systems of how money is made, systems of how accessible money is to you in different ways, right? And that makes it easier, that actually gets you stuck in, or could make you much more difficult for somebody who's a working class, for example, poor, to actually get to the point where you make more money. You're less fortunate. So I want to acknowledge that also to my listeners, that like sociologically speaking, there are systems that go deep, these are laws, these are laws that can prevent you from accessing whatever, right? That you, if it's entrepreneurship, or if it's how good healthcare, for example, there are systems in place that are designed in such a way that we see today, like for example, in the US and in Europe too, that the rich do get richer, and this is like happens during the pandemic, happens when it's war, and those who are poor actually get poorer. And it seems like this is how society is built, and there's this injustice built into the system. And I think it's important to keep that into mind as well. That's the only thing I would like to add to your very profound insights.
I think that's important because the system is rigged against us. I didn't come from a particularly wealthy family. I wasn't on the breadline, but by no means was my family, one of these, I guess, one of the families we're talking about, one of the rich, right? So the reality is that we do live in a rigged system that's rigged against us. But the best, I guess, antidote to that for someone that's in a disadvantaged position is they need some kind of inspiration, or some kind of insight, or some kind of access to something that triggers their belief. Because if you can visualize yourself and visualize a world where you are abundant, where you are living in a world of plenty, that you're not currently living in, because it's impossible, because you look around, you don't see anything, you just see the same people struggling with the same problems, and the same poor school system, the same poor healthcare system. You can't imagine, you cannot visualize in your mind a reality where you win, or you succeed, or you join these people that are making the money that everyone deserves. So I think if there's a way to trigger a vision or belief in those people, those are usually the people that claw out, because they can see over the hill. They can actually see potential. They can actually imagine that world. And there are those individuals that manage to do that. So I think even in a system that's rigged, there are those rare individuals that get access to maybe a book, or maybe a mentor, or maybe one YouTube video. And all of a sudden they can imagine a world where they make it. And then they just, if they have the work ethic and the mindset and the vision, they will achieve it with enough effort, and potentially it means changing their environment. But there is always a way, but it's bloody hard because the system is rigged against us.
Yeah. If anything, like what you just said is so important, because it gives you motivation, because it fills you with some kind of fuel that you get to take action. Because if you don't, if you stop at the system is rigged, then you just become a victim, right? And then you're stuck. And the way to break the stuckness for you as an individual is to work hard, is to find access to like motivation, whether it's through visualization, imagination, a book, a mentor, a YouTube video, whatever that is, that like gives you motivation to actually take action. And then there's the other side as well, which if you're, for example, a policymaker, a politician, you can create incentives for for a more just society. It's not easy, obviously, on both ends. It's not easy, but I think for the individual who's listening to this, change is possible, even though the system is rigged against you. And if you don't believe that, then if you believe, okay, I am a victim in this system, then you won't change. Then you will get stuck there. So I highly appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah. I have another question to you, Dan, because you talk about, like initially when you talked about what you do for your clients, for your audience, it's like you create a brand, isn't it? You create a brand and that invites other people into their life, into that brand where they can actually serve. And it's important for you to say that the brand should be authentic, the brand should be in alignment with your deeper values, who you are. That's where you start. And from there you build your brand. What are the greatest lessons that you have learned from your experience, personal experience, and in working with clients? What's the most valuable lessons that you have to say about branding, to say about like how do you, as a newcomer in the market, whether it's on Twitter or any other social media or any other kind of social media platform, how should you go about building this brand? You have alignment, you know what you want, you have clarity, and now you know what you want to do. And I personally think that knowing what you want to do, it's something also that it's not, okay, I sit in my room and I think, and then I'm clear about what I want. It's actually you take action. And as you build, you get more clear and clear. And obviously, that's what I think. But what's your take on it? Like, what's the greatest branding lessons that you have ever learned? If you want to share that, of course. Don't share all your secrets.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm still learning myself, but the things that have been most helpful for myself and my clients is number one, you have to be willing to be vulnerable because with personal brand, there's a key point there, and that's personal. But I think now that's transcending into companies. Companies now take CEOs, and the companies that have a CEO that's out there, putting themselves out there, people know the CEO. Now they attach the personal brand to the company. So it doesn't matter if you're in big business or you're just a personal brand trying to stand out, is you have to be vulnerable. And that means telling your story is a big part of it, especially at first. There's no guru that just starts out going, here's how to do this, here's how to do that. You need that actionable advice, but you need people to actually care about who you are and actually be invested in you and your journey. So I'd say brand is, for me, like the word brand and the word story kind of go hand in hand because people have a story about you in their mind. So you need to create that story in their mind. You need to create a world around yourself. So I would say being vulnerable and inviting people in to see all the imperfections, all of the wins, all of the failures, all of the losses is vital. So I guess an actionable point there is tell your story in every single different way, whether it's your backstory, whether it's what you're currently working on, whether it's your worst failures, whether it's your greatest win or something that's even just going on in your daily life, share that. That's a really, really important thing. I think another thing as well is don't be afraid to polarize, as in you don't want to, if you try and please everyone, you don't please anyone. So you have to be willing to take a stand for something because that is magnetic as hell. Like that is something that so many people are afraid to do. But if you're not willing to upset some people or you're scared to upset people, then you're never going to stand out because you don't really stand for anything. And that means no one's going to be drawn towards you and no one's going to be pushed away because you need to push away. That it's not about who you speak to, it's about who you don't speak to. And you create a loyal tribe around you and your strong beliefs. And the more conviction you have, the better. So don't be afraid to polarize. And then lastly is realize that it's all a game of perception. Like we spoke about story, but it's all a game. Like positioning is just what, like how do your audience or how do people perceive you? And when you're aware of the fact that you're playing a game of perception, like how do people see me? What do people think about me? What do they associate with me or my company or whatever it is? You need to occupy that mental real estate in such a way where they have a very clear understanding and perception of who you are, what you stand for, what you talk about, where you're living, what you're working on, what you do. And it really comes down to clarity. And I think the clarity comes with discipline, and it comes with making sure that you know what you talk about, you know what you believe in, and eventually over time, your niche, call it what it were, will emerge. You don't have to just go, I'm doing that and get in a lane. Eventually, your niche will emerge through your writing, through your content, and you listen to signals. Did that content go viral? Did somebody DM me about that? Did someone retweet? Did it get a load of retweets? Did someone bookmark my post? So I think realizing that the signals are all there. When the signals arrive, analyze it, double down, and anything that's not working, eradicate. And all of a sudden, with all of those elements we just spoke about, you've got a bit of a strategy and a bit of a mindset to approach branding that enables you to stand out and be one of one, because that's what you need to be. You need to be rare, you need to be unique, you need to be authentic, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to be memorable. So I think that's really the key points.
Thank you so much, man. That was extremely helpful and insightful. I have two questions before we end. And the first is, what should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I like fluid conversations anyway, so it's hard to. I need to dig into my mind to find something. I'm a natural optimist, so I'll always be like, yeah, like everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. So I wouldn't say there was anything that you should have asked me, but I do perhaps asking me about. I think you did a perfect job, man. Potentially maybe about how spirituality and like maybe what spirituality like how do I view spirituality in terms of as an isolated thing, because
Yeah,
we're appealing to entrepreneurs and business owners and people, freelancers on the journey, right? But sometimes it's helpful to isolate it and be like, okay, it translates into business, but how can we isolate it and have, I guess, a spiritual practice or a spiritual habits that will spill over into business? That's always an enjoyable conversation for me. But I don't think it was 100% had to be in there. But I think it's helpful for people if they realize that, okay, you need to isolate your spiritual life from business as well in order to maximize business from a spiritual entrepreneur standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. So exactly, I agree with you there that you have to but it's useful to have a spiritual practice yourself, right? Whether it's meditation, journaling, being out in nature, if you participate in religious rituals, whatever that is that is useful for you, that helps you on your journey is useful, right? I agree with you. I agree with you absolutely. And it's stuck with alignment, because in my understanding, yes, true spiritual practice, a true spiritual journey is about finding yourself, authenticity. It's about being raw with yourself. Any kind of spirituality that brings you away from yourself is for me not useful. If it brings you to yourself with all the rawness, to your shadow, accepting your shadow, helping you to deal with all of your difficulties that you're experiencing, that you're running away from, that is for me a useful and good spirituality. What do you think? What is it for you?
So having a healthy relationship with yourself and the world around you is probably the biggest silver bullet for most of your problems. Like, there's never a business problem. There's never a relationship problem. It's always a you problem. So improving that relationship with yourself is really how you solve a lot of those problems. Being curious about your own mind, being curious about your own psychology, being curious about the world around you, and thinking, what can I do? How can I take responsibility for making this better? And that starts with even just down to stuff like discipline is spiritual, right? Like, it's like, how do I view myself? How do I view, I guess, my behavior? What impact is that going to have on the world around me? And how can I incorporate discipline into my just everyday small actions and bigger actions, so that I can carry that over, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. How can I carry that over into every part of my life? So I agree. And then facing your demons, facing your shadow, like you said, and being able to like look upon it and not judge yourself, and realize that we have a nature, and humans, this is what we do. We want to improve our relationship with ourselves. We want to face our fears. We want to be curious about that shadow rather than running away from it. And this in the spiritual realm, this is you facing your fears. Like in the physical realm, it's seeing a shark in the water, or it's seeing a bear in the woods, or it's seeing somebody trying to fight you. You're in a fight, maybe, I don't know, someone attacked you. We can do the same, but in the spiritual realm with ourselves, because it's always really what's going on internally. And if we can face those fears, and if we can actually be curious about them and actually run towards them, I think you're now becoming more fearless. So when people see a fearless individual, or they see somebody that's like able to take risks, chances are like that they're at one end of the spectrum. They're either a complete radical, like adrenaline junkie, or they've done a lot of work on themselves to face their fears, to actually be curious about themselves and think, I've got nothing to be scared of, because the only thing I'm scared of is fear, and fear comes from within. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of being having a spiritual practice, is, or at least being curious about spirituality, is you become a more your energy increases, and your approach to life becomes more energized and not aggressive in a bad way, but you start to go for things. You become more fearless and take more risks. These are all associated with business and success, so it's just a positive carryover all around.
Thank you so much, Dan. My last question. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
The best place to find me would be on X. That's where I spend most of my time. So my username is @DanWestworld. That's where I post most of my content. I'm also on a few other platforms, but I'd say start with X. And I have a newsletter which I send out every week. So if people feel like the spirit moves them today, so go and sign up to that, I'd be grateful. But at the end of the day, I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity. So thank you, Gabriel. I really appreciate it, and this chat was awesome. If I would have loved if we could have gone longer,
Yeah,
because
for
it was
sure.
incredibly stimulating.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dan. And I'll put that in the notes as well for the show, or in this episode, so that people can just click and find you immediately on X. So I truly enjoyed this conversation, Dan, and thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. Looking forward to getting to know you a bit better. And yeah, I'm just if anyone's listening to this right now, I hope that you took some value from this, and yeah, make sure that you stay tuned with Gabriel's future content.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.